Welcome back, team. Microsoft is having a hell of a time, and absolutely not in a good way. Phil Spencer, he's probably going to need a vacation because he's got a triple whammy of just fun bullshit. Well, for him. So one of them is mass unionization. Bethesda and World of Warcraft developers are banding together. Now, mostly, right, in terms of unionization, there's been talk of QA teams. QA teams is something that the industry does treat as being fairly expendable. Core game teams, though, that literally drive billions of dollars of revenue, well, them unionizing is a little bit of a different story for the C-suite anyway. Point 2 then is the FTC breathing down their necks, accusing them of product degradation, which is pretty spicy. And the third thing is Halo. Yes, John Halo has been cancelled after Season 2. So a bit of a swing and a miss. That said, it's not completely dead. And so while Microsoft absolutely is struggling, you can help keep our lights on via today's sponsor. World of Tanks, a game that speaks to a side of me that you don't see, which is very much all Tank Museum videos. Now, World of Tanks has got you smashing together over 800 different types of tanks, which is inherently awesome. And actually, tank gameplay is inherently gripping, I think. You see, it's all about line of sight, speed, weight, the turn rate of your turret, the layout of the armor across your tank, all of that stuff that just leads to really gripping gameplay, and of course a lot of variation between tanks to fit your play style. Now, the game is free to play on PC via my link in the description, and my code COMBAT gets you 250k credits, the premium Cromwell B tank, as well as rentals, the Tiger 131, T78 and Type 64, which of course, if you're into tanks, you'll know. So that's all you need to get started and get blasting, something we'll be doing across 40 massive detailed maps. Again, thinking about how tank gameplay works, whether it's forest, city, desert, the terrain, the buildings, the foliage, they'll all change how you actually play. And as for the tanks themselves, they are authentically modeled and ready for you to tinker and upgrade as you progress through the game. Core gameplay is intense, the characteristics of your tank matter, it is tactically and strategically deep as you coordinate things with your team, and you can join today using my link in the video description. That promo code COMBAT gets you, of course, 250k, the Cromwell B, plus rentals, and what's extra nice is you can use that if you're a lapsed player, where you'll get 3 days premium, camo in either a Centurion Mk, or if you've already got that particular model, 100k credits. So go forth and blow shit up with World of Tanks, which you can try for free today at my link. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. The FTC are still appealing the Xbox merger court decision, and what's happened basically is the price hikes with Game Pass have just given them new ammunition, and that does mean that they have loaded that up and they have filed a new grievance. This is the exact situation they said would happen last year in court. Quote, product degradation. Let's go to a quote. For consumers unwilling to pay 81% more, Microsoft is introducing a degraded product, Game Pass Standard. This product costs 36% more than console Game Pass and withholds day one releases. Yeah, that's bad. It's transparently worse in every way. It blows. I mean, it really does. Like, come on, Microsoft. The thing that you had over Sony, the thing that was the value, was the day one thing, right? That was the whole point. Now, this is not the first grievance that they filed. The Xbox layoffs were argued to be basically reduced investments in output and product quality, which, yeah, they absolutely were. I mean, here's an amazing example of it, right? Warcraft Chronicle Volume 4. And I know most of you don't give a shit, but point is, I know from the work that I do in the other YouTube channel that we run, I very much know that the team who literally QAs narrative content, right? Who QAs narrative content and who, you know, they're basically the kind of like lore historians. Now, the thing is, they are not considered to be developers or like game developers on the WoW team, so they're kind of like advisory role, but a lot of what they would do would just be to clean things up, to help make sure that books wouldn't be a shit show when they came out. It was already a pretty understaffed department from what I understood, but funnily enough, they get completely gutted, and you look at Warcraft Chronicle Volume 4, absolute mess. I mean, there's some bits that are good, but it's just like, yeah, of course there are lore inconsistencies. You literally fired the people who were sort of responsible for lore being consistent. I mean, God, if I was the FTC, maybe I would call that a degraded product. Anyway, timing-wise, what they did with Game Pass obviously lines up with Call of Duty, right? This was actually called out in court by Xbox as an event that would not result in a price increase, right? They literally said that Call of Duty on the Game Pass of the time that would be a great, quote, consumer benefit of the merger. And they said there would not be price increases as a result of that merger. So, of course, for all of us, we think, okay, right, so finally, the big game, the real big one, that's coming out, and that's when you do the price increase? I mean, it looks very suspicious. Thing is, though, Microsoft caveated everything they said in that statement with, as a result of the merger. That is a good legal defense. Those two little words are doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting here. So the argument here can be that economic factors outside of the merger are the cause, and the whole point is, as basically this is all going to be impossible to prove unless you could get your hands on like an email between executives that just outright confirms it. Now, of course, Xbox have responded to this grievance. They say that the FTC is wrong, that they're misleading, and that is, yes, misleading to call Game Pass standard degraded. And they claim that the bundling of Xbox's paid multiplayer services, $9.99, to the removed Game Pass for console version, that retains the value of the product, and that the new Game Pass Ultimate's price point is matched by the value of them releasing more games day and date, especially Call of Duty. Ultimately, though, they argue it's common for businesses to change service offerings over time, and when you take a look at some of the output coming out of Xbox, plenty of it is from stuff that's not Activision. So they can basically say like, bro, no. That's avowed is why we've raised our prices. It's definitely not Call of Duty. But look, basically the point here is they're disingenuous, yes, but they're not incorrect. You know, the Simpsons thing, technically correct, the best form of correct. That's basically what the sort of legal system does, right? Anyway, Game Pass for console plus multiplayer did cost $20.98 a month, and now at $14.99 you are saving $6 by not getting day and date games. So I think because of that, it is pretty unlikely that anything will change in the appeal right now, because the legal coverage that Microsoft basically have from their caveats. Look, you see all those caveats, the legalese? There's a reason why that's all there. So this is in fact them getting great value for money out of their lawyers. Tell you what's real interesting though, the other story, which is the Bethesda and Warcraft Union. So, Bethesda Game Studios has unionized under the Communication Workers of America, with 241 staff signing on across all disciplines: artists, engineers, programmers, designers, and this is at all three of their internal locations, right? It's actually following Bethesda Game Studios Montreal in June 24 and about 300 QA staff across ZeniMax in January 2023. And the funny thing, though I suppose not funny if you lost your job, is it did rather suspiciously seem like the employees that were in the union didn't get chopped up with the axe. So, I don't know, maybe there's a bit of a correlation there. Only days later then, the entire World of Warcraft development team unionized. Now, that is that's something I'm quite happy about, because the Warcraft team has had health issues at points in the past, and it was bullshit and stuff. But what this is a wall-to-wall union. It's QA, art, sound, design, engineering. They are called the WoW Game Makers Guild, WoW GG. They're under the Communication Workers of America. They say their intent is for a democratized workplace, which will certainly be great if you're some sort of manager at Microsoft. You'll love that. You'll be like, oh my god, oh no, the people have formed a democratized workplace. What are we going to do? IGN interviewed the founders, and basically the key issues were pay equity and work from home stuff. Of course, work from home stuff, that's actually been real significant from the top with Blizzard. Now, we don't know what it's like for, for their current president. But basically, there were all hands with Mike Ybarra, where Mike Ybarra kind of made a big tit out of himself. Some of that was regarding, flexible work stuff. So that's kind of what they're doing there. Now, in the layoffs, the dev staff were less impacted. Basically, WoW seemed to be safe. I mean, some people were lost, and departments that do support Warcraft development, such as CDev, well, they did actually see quite substantial losses. But certainly, it's not like if you're in the Overwatch 2 PvE team, in which case you were basically definitely gone. Per IGN interviews, here's where it gets interesting. The organizing of this union began in 2021, right? It basically started with the whole harassment suit, spurred on by just walkouts and everything that happened. And one thing they say they hope is that with WoW, like as an entire, development staff, if they're unionized, then that could help other games. Say Apex, say, whatever, right? Like those game teams who literally do carry the financial performance of, well, I was going to say carry the financial performance of their parent companies on their back. And if you're working in Grand Theft Auto Online, sure. I don't think the World of Warcraft devs are carrying Microsoft on their back, but certainly they are carrying a very substantial amount of what Blizzard, tosses into the pot on their back. They're extremely important. So look, they're going to have a lot of clout here. Now, IGN also confirmed that an ActiBlizz QA team of 60 people in Austin who work on Diablo, Hearthstone, and other ones have unionized as well. Of course, man, Blizzard QA, Austin. The Austin office just got cut to flippin' ribbons. Absolutely just, demolished with layoffs. Awful. Now, per their agreements with Communication Workers of America ahead of the merger, Microsoft has voluntarily recognized the union here, the unionizing moves in all cases, and that means that they're now going into bargaining with Microsoft, the unions that is, to basically get details of what the union contract is going to look like. And that is the kind of thing that can take a long time. As an example, the ZeniMax QA union have not finished their own negotiations yet, but they've also got some big wins. So these include getting contract workers hired with pay bumps, with paid holidays and sick leave, which is freaking awesome, and then securing contractual protections about having a say in the integration of AI into their workflow. I think that's the bit that's important, because the problem I think with AI is we've had this strange accelerationism of it that's been, I think, really annoying and really detached from good product. So you've got the grifters on one hand, and then you've got all the big tech companies basically racing with each other to do AI things, which, that's what leads to, as an example, Microsoft making such tits out of themselves with the whole Copilot Plus replay thing, and that sort of thing's frustrating. Now, to talk about like AI being useful in a workflow, well, currently I'm doing a bunch of stuff to automate parts of my inbox because I've actually worked out some really powerful workflows that lets loads of stuff just happen by default. Well, not to jump too much into details and stuff, but basically you can do like human in the loop stuff using automation platforms, be it, your Makes, your Zapiers and stuff. So that, of course, human oversight is there, which is the thing that's important. And then the other side is some parts of the video editing workflow where basically the AI-based voice like transcription stuff is really good. Now that's quite useful. Having a transcript for your video, pretty useful. It's, as an example, really good for having like multi-language, like captions, subtitles, that sort of thing. Another thing is just, it's actually enabled some video editing workflows that just save loads of trudgery when it comes to just like the basics of cutting A-roll or AI upscaling. I mean, damn, you should see what some of the anime people have done with H.265 and some interesting upscaling workflows. Anyway, right, thing is, as a tool, if it's wielded by people who are grifters who just want to integrate AI for the sake of AI, it's going to be a nightmare for the people who've actually got to do the work. And then there's that none of those staff were impacted during the layoffs last year. Now, it's not like they had secured layoff protection or anything. It's just that they did not happen to be laid off, which is, I don't know, an interesting factoid. I think, though, with the potential for layoffs and just understanding the very cold and often very short-term calculus of those companies, yeah, people will want to have as many protections as they can get because a lot of these companies will very readily make it clear that they just do not give a shit. And it's one of those things like, I mean, basically, most small, medium businesses, they often kind of will care. I think, though, when you're getting to that, hey, we have 85,000 employees, that's when it just gets to the, the very inhuman scale. And then it's not like you're able to have a relationship with your employer that is grounded off mutual respect and, sort of good ideals. If you're maybe a company with 20 people, well, there's still be shit shows in companies like that, obviously. But the point is, it's fundamentally different, right? And you need, when you are dealing with that level of scale where it's so many people in a company that everything is systematized, you need your protections to be systematized as well, which is why this is an important thing for the staff. So it's good, and I suppose eventually it could open them up to being able to do fun things like industrial action. Because guess what, right? If they start taking the piss, what happens if the World of Warcraft Union says, fine, we'll walk? That, Oh boy, that would be something. Oh yeah, and also the Halo TV show's dead. Maybe. So it's been cancelled. Now that's kind of interesting because season 1 was the most watched show on Paramount Plus in 2022. It was critically panned. It was hated by fans. I haven't watched it. No, I haven't watched it. I have watched season 2 though, because people said it would be quite a bit better than season 1. It did improve, but it was very obvious that there was just things they couldn't do. You know, they were going to do the Fall of Reach as a big thing. I've played Halo Reach. They did a Battle of the Five Armies, you know, where just, the Battle of the Five Armies starts. Bilbo gets knocked unconscious. He wakes up. The Battle of the Five Armies is over. And of course, for The Hobbit, that wasn't a bad thing. That was very intentional. And that's the thing with season 2 with Halo, because, yeah, they couldn't show the Fall of Reach properly. They couldn't. There's weird lore changes, like keys. I mean, he did kind of go out like a badass, but why'd you, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me. It was weird. It was a weird season. It was very bizarre. Now, there were some things that were good. Look, there are bits where I actually think Spartans feel kind of Spartan-like. I think Pablo did a great job. I think he's great. I like him. Writing, you know, we have some criticisms there, but I think the actual cast, you know, we're strong enough. It's just funny, though, that they cancelled Halo right as Chief got on Halo. And even when the action actually started to take place on the Halo ring, it was for a very tiny, you know, it was a very, very short period of time. But what's annoying to me is just before that, right? They're on Onyx, and on Onyx, some Forerunner stuff happens. You know what? The Forerunner Tech, the hard lights bridge, man, that looked really good. The Flood were flipping brilliant. They actually did the Flood so flipping well. I know that not everybody loved it, but I thought as like an introduction of the Flood, it was like, you know, S tier. I mean, I like the horror genre. I thought they were really well done. So it's frustrating to me because I could see some positive improvement, but I could also see that budget was always going to be quite the problem here. As for it being cancelled, well, let's just talk about that. So probably an expensive show. Paramount has continually underperformed as a company. They just sold for $28 billion, and as a part of a sale, well, cutting costs is very much a big deal, right? Now, Halo's been in development since 2005. At one point, there was going to be a movie with Neil Blomkamp, Peter Jackson. His name was bandied about. Season 1 episodes of Halo cost about $10 million each, $90 million in total, though The Guardian said that season actually cost $200 million. By comparison, Fallout's 8 episodes, though, cost $153 million. So yeah, I think money's absolutely going to be a problem here. Now, this was not just an Xbox thing. Basically, they were also working with Amblin Television. So 343i, Amblin Television, and Xbox are now looking for some new owners to make Season 3. And you can look at things, say, look at some of the Mario stuff that's happened. You could take a look at Fallout. I mean, Fallout's been a success literally for Xbox. I think the problem here, though, is this is an in-battle show. Yes, it does have, like, brand recognition, and, I mean, that's shown in how in 2022 it did top Paramount Plus, but it was a weak season. They changed things that just didn't make that much sense to change. Now, look, I'm not on team helmet on all the time. Look, I'm fine. I thought Pablo was great. Like, my problems were pacing. My problems were the way that they got around their budget. I think sometimes not really in the most creative way. Look, this is not going to devolve into a sort of full review thing here, but I just think there's a lot of baggage here, and if anyone is to pick it up, they would want something that feels like a reset, especially because things only get more expensive. And I mean, look, you're firmly into Halo 1, but I will say there is a time-honored way to make a cheap movie or TV show, and that is to ramble about in a random forest and have a bunch of spooky monsters. That is just peak B-movie. And you're doing Halo 1, so you do not have to do the most crazy stuff. Halo 1 is more of a contained, smaller setting. So look, scale it down. The Skybox will do enough grandeur, but look, scale it down, cut as much as is humanly possible, because you tried to hit way too much in the past anyway. If they could just cut things way down, make it be, Chief, Cortana on Halo, perhaps build up a few Marines. I actually think they could probably make a real good season there. When I look at Pablo's performance and honestly, like, yeah, some of their depictions of elites, their depictions of the Flood, I think that there's real potential there. And the reason why Halo frustrated me is because some things were so close to working, then immediately juxtaposed by stupid shit that made no sense. But anyway, that's it. Microsoft have had an interesting 2 or so weeks. Let me know what you think about them, and with that said, I'll see you next time.